vintage Star Wars fans, it's time for another Despecialized Edition review for the original Star Wars trilogy. And I am not taking a look at the DVD release of the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back Special Edition. And I'm also not taking a look at the Blu-ray Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back Special Edition. This is a very beautiful case, but not taking a look at the special editions, taking a look at the original, unedited, unchanged version of Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back as it was originally released in 1980, and then a short while after on VHS, which vintage fans wore out in their VCRs watching the movie over and over again. So this isn't really a review of the movie Empire Strikes Back, it's more a commentary on what I felt watching the Despecialized edition of it. In my Star Wars Despecialized Edition review, I talked about how it was a time warp for me back to 1977, not necessarily to the first time I watched Star Wars, because I didn't see Star Wars until the 90s, but I felt as if I was transported into a theater in 1977, and I got to have that experience that so many people had in 1977. So the Despecialized Edition of Empire Strikes Back, in a way, in a sense, was very much a time warp back to 1980 to get to watch this movie, but also it was a time warp for me back to the 90s when I was watching it on my VHS tapes over and over again. And my feelings about the special edition of Empire Strikes Back are pretty similar to A New Hope. I did appreciate a lot of the touch-ups, some of the special effects, improvements, but much like the New Hope Special Edition, the more I watched it, the more I longed for the original version that I had seen over and over and over growing up. And the more I watched the Special Edition, the more the changes really stuck out at me. The three major changes in the Special Edition for The Empire Strikes Back are the correction of the Emperor hologram when he's talking to Vader. In the original version, it was a combination of an actor or an actress. I've heard that it was possibly an old lady with orangutan eyes superimposed, giving it that really strange, otherworldly look to it, with a different voice to the Emperor in the hologram, Clive Revell. So Ian McDiarmid had not been cast as the Emperor up until that point, and for the sake of continuity, it would have been nice if McDiarmid was in Empire Strikes Back, and they did correct that in the special edition, retconned it so that he is in Empire Strikes Back. But the more I watch that Ian McDiarmid hologram in special editions, the more I don't see original trilogy Palpatine in that hologram. The more I watched the special edition, the more I saw Ian McDiarmid in his makeup while he was shooting Revenge of the Sith. And that's exactly what that was. They shot that during the prequel trilogy filming, and it didn't feel like they went out of their way to correct a mistake. It felt like they just threw something in to tweak it, to nitpick it. Very similar to adding Hayden Christensen's head, pasting Hayden's head over top of Sebastian Shaw's ghost body at the end of Return of the Jedi. It was just something, it was an afterthought. It wasn't, we need to do this, we need to plan this, we need to go all out with this and make sure it's done right. It felt like an afterthought. In addition to him not quite looking right to me, the dialogue, I really don't like the dialogue in the special edition. I so much prefer the dialogue in the Empire Strikes Back version. I don't know if that's just childhood nostalgia or teenagehood nostalgia, but I just really prefer it. And also, I'm fairly confident in saying I prefer the original version of the Emperor, because when I was watching that, years before the prequels came out and before the special editions, I thought that actually worked better for the trilogy as a whole, because I felt like that's what he looked like in Empire, and yikes, look at him in Return of the Jedi. He looks really decrepit. Now, he didn't look too great in Empire Strikes Back in the hologram with the orangutan eyes, but he sounded a little smoother, a little better. and he looked a little better and a little smoother, still deformed. Return of the Jedi, he's deformed in a different way, and he sounds old and crotchety. And I just chalked that up to being the dark side of the Force eating away at the guy, and it worked for me. It made me understand the dangerous power of the dark side. Look what this did to the Emperor in between these two movies. Look how far he's fallen. And immediately I just made the connection and thought, that's happening to Vader. He's also degrading and becoming more decrepit. And it's just more tragic. And that makes Luke's purpose of redeeming his father even more important, because it's not just, I fell to the dark side, I must be saved. It was, you got to save your father because he's still diminishing on a daily basis. It's not just about the injuries that Vader sustained and these cybernetic replacements. It's degradation on a daily basis. So I think by putting in Ian McDiarmid in his Palpatine outfit and makeup in Empire Strikes Back Special Edition, you lose that degradation, that decrepitness that the dark side is eating away at you, and it becomes more of like a through line, consistent. And I don't like to think of the dark side as consistent. I like to think of it as a downward slope or a downward spiral. So that is a major thing that I preferred in the original version. I'm so thankful that is restored in this Despecialized Edition version. The second major change for me is the wampa, the extra wampa stuff in the Special Edition. Don't care for it. Don't like it, don't care for it. Every time I see it, all I can see is a new actor in modern day shooting new wampa footage. And I prefer the way it was shot originally. I didn't see any problem with it. I like the confusion of the moment, because Luke is confused in the moment. He's trying to get out of there. And then the third major change in the Special Edition was the addition of Vader boarding his shuttle after his duel with Luke, and Luke escapes. He says, "Bring me my shuttle." He gets on his shuttle. We see the shuttle fly up there, and it destroys the pacing for me. And after seeing the Special Edition a couple of times, I finally I had to tap out. I was like, I can't stand this anymore. This movie that I loved so much and I was so passionate about, and had the perfect, one of the best endings of any movie ever. The good guys lost, but you're okay with it. They did it in such a masterful way, and it's such a precarious situation. And then they add this extra footage in that just bogs it down, ruins the pacing, ruins the rhythm. And I'm just sitting there going, why do we need to see him getting in a shuttle and flying to a Star Destroyer? We know this happened. So I felt like that was totally unnecessary. I inferred that's how he got up there. I never once thought, how did he get up there? Did he Superman it with the Force? And where do you draw the line? All of these characters must use the bathroom at some point, right? But we never see any of them use the bathroom. Are we going to start including bathroom breaks here? Is Vader are they in a future Special Edition I know I'm being silly here, but am I being that silly? Ducking into a bathroom.
1 second, I must evacuate my bowels.
It's not necessary. It kills the pacing, and there's a reason why certain things like that are cut out. And I'm finding in older movies, a lot of stuff was left to not just your imagination, but to your inference, because you could infer that happened. And more things are being included that aren't necessary, because it just feels like spoon feeding. Because of nitpicking, these things are being included. And this is the big thing that I want to touch on for this particular review. I gave an example in my New Hope, or Star Wars, Despecialized Edition review. I gave an example with a glass of water and the effect of dilution. When you take some orange juice, concentrated, pure, intense, delicious orange juice, and you add some water to it, it becomes diluted. It looks like orange juice still, pretty much, but it doesn't taste like orange juice. It just tastes like water with slight orange flavor. And that was the example of dilution I wanted to give. And the example for the Empire Strikes Back Despecialized Edition that I want to give is an example of nitpicking. And I know a thing or two about nitpicking through this channel. Over the last couple of years, the channel has really grown, and I've met so many awesome, amazing people. And there's been so much positivity and love and enthusiasm and passion, and I'm so grateful for that. If you've seen some of my videos, you may have heard me quote an old Heraclitus quote, the 1 in 100 warrior definition. Only 1 in 100 men is a warrior. Going through all of those comments, those messages, I would venture to say 1 in 100 is a nitpicker. So lots of positive comments, optimism, excitement, but then every 1 in 100 I seem to find a real nitpicker, someone who ignores the entire majesty of whatever, the movie, the TV show, the toy, the comic, whatever it might be, book, person, experience, whatever, place. They ignore the wonder of the whole thing because of one little nitpick, and they just can't get past it. And I am not about nitpicking. I don't let nitpicking take my enjoyment away, and I'll go so far as to say I am have declared and continue to wage full-blown war against nitpicking. And the example that I wanted to show with nitpicking, I wish I had an eyedropper, but I'll have to just use this little knitting needle of Luana's. Here's what I think of nitpicking. So another example with water. Right here we've got a glass of nice clear, or as clear as it gets in my town, water. And this represents to me Empire Strikes Back, the original version, 1980. And because you can't get it anywhere on DVD or Blu-ray or digital download, this also represents Harmy's Empire Strikes Back, Despecialized Edition. And I have a jar of nitpicking right here. It's actually a jar of Tamiya acrylic paint, semi-gloss black, which really comes in handy for when some of those G.I. Joes have some paint scuffs. And what I'm going to do here is just dip this in here and show you one drop. That's one drop of nitpicking. This to me represents everything that was wrong with the original Empire Strikes Back movie. Everything that was right in this glass, everything that was wrong in here. And I don't let this one little drop ruin the movie for me. But I feel like specialized editions of Star Wars are focusing on this one little drop, and people are taking that one little drop and instead of compartmentalizing, keeping them separate. Okay, there's some issues there, that's fine, but this is what's important. I feel this is what the nitpickers do. They drop the drop in there, and not just that, but then they stir it around. And what you end up getting, instead of your nice clear glass of Empire Strikes Back, is you get some gross, gray, murky special edition. And it's really amazing what one drop of black paint can do for a glass of clear water. I think it's something that maybe people should really dwell on. And if you leave that alone for a while, it actually will settle a little bit. Everything that is not clear water will settle on the bottom, and then you'll get a little bit of separation there. But I think what the problem is that the nitpickers just can't leave it alone, and they have to keep stirring it, and trying to make two things that don't go together. I think that's where all of the irritation comes from. For me, the special editions now, when I think about them, after a couple of years of having watched them and enjoying the improved graphics, the special effects, the color correction and all that, now I just can't get over thinking about them as nitpicking, like Han shot first. And how many times have they nitpicked the nitpick? It just never ends, and I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. The same goes for any of the changes in Empire Strikes Back. I'm fine with the grain. While I was watching this Despecialized Edition, I loved the grain. I stopped and I told my wife, I love this. This doesn't look like the one I've seen on Blu-ray a couple dozen times. I love the grain. I could see some of the blue screen, whatever they call it, artifacting, or you can tell when something has been blue screened or green screened in old movies. And I loved it. It added such a charm to it. It made it such an old, nostalgic thing. Instead of, ooh, that looks bad, I looked at it and went, that looks wonderful. That looks creative. That looks like a bunch of guys were having the time of their lives making the sequel to Star Wars. And I just preferred it. I like the look, the color of it. The Hoth scenes are back to the color I remember them being. It was all, even though it's not there from 1980, it's there from 1992 or 3. And it unlocked something in my brain, the colors, the Hoth colors being the correct white color now instead of the colors that they've tweaked them in the special edition. R2-D2 looking black in space. I remember that. I remember thinking so many times, he's black in space. I guess with the light difference in space, he's going to look a little different. They correct him in the special edition to being blue, and I just preferred everything being back the way it was. It's crazy to think about all the effort it took to undo the fixing, to undo all the nitpicking. But I really do have a lot of gratitude to Harmy for making the effort to give us back the original Star Wars as the original trilogy fans remember it, because the people who own the property aren't doing it. The guy who owned it before, the people who own it now, didn't really have any interest in doing it, and the people who own it now, there still doesn't seem to be any interest in doing it. If they ever do release an official original version of the original trilogy, either on Blu-ray or digital download or whatever, that is something I will absolutely drop the money on. But I have the DVDs, I paid for these, of the special edition. I paid for this Blu-ray special edition. I saw there was a new version released just recently. Again, special editions. I'm not going to drop any more money. I'm not going to support monuments of nitpicking anymore, because that's kind of what I feel about the special editions. So, you know, it should go without saying, but I always feel like I do need to say it for a few people out there. If you love the special editions, then love them. Hope you didn't watch this video, or I hope you turn it off right now. Go and love what you love, but I don't love the special editions. I don't know if I ever loved them, maybe not past the first viewing, but I certainly don't want to ever watch them again. I want to watch these movies as they were originally created, and I don't want to see the nitpicking, the little fixes that don't really matter, and instead of fixing things, all they really do is distract, make me sad, and just make me wonder, why not use that time and energy and those resources for creating something new, rather than going back and fixing something that didn't need to be fixed. So here's hoping that an official set of the original trilogy in its original form is released in glorious high def, maybe 4K, so that everyone can enjoy it, and at an affordable price too, being mass produced worldwide. But for now, if you want to see Star Wars in its original form, you got to hunt down one of the original VHS tapes. They were released on DVD years ago by Lucasfilm when it was still owned by George Lucas. They were not widescreen versions. They were kind of afterthoughts as well. Right now, if you want to watch it in high def on a big screen or on a projector, Harmy is the only game in town. Don't ask me where to find it. I don't remember where I found mine. It was quite a while ago. So yeah, it's been about 2 years since I've done the New Hope Special Edition review. So yeah, it's out there. Stuff isn't hard to find on the internet. And I think I actually might take some time to enjoy Return of the Jedi Despecialized Edition 2, because I'm just enjoying the space in between them. I don't feel the need to go through a marathon. I'm finding that when I marathon things, I just walk out of it kind of dull and desensitized instead of feeling really, really pumped and passionate about it. So hoping we get a crystal clear official release and feel the true vintage power of the Force. Got a comment about the original version of Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. Scroll down and go to town. And to join the tribe,
Force choke subscribe.
Nerd Mistake.